what is true? The not all men conversation is so ignorant, in my opinion, when it comes from men, because it's like saying like yeah, it's factual, like not all men, not every single fucking man in the fucking world rapes. Yeah, we know that, we fucking know that. But that's like saying all cigarettes cause cancer. Y'all be calling them cancer sticks, don't you? That don't mean you're gonna get cancer if you smoke a cig, but you might get cancer if you smoke a cig. Do you see what the fuck I'm saying?
Let's talk about men. Men. Ooh. Men. Ooh. Ooh. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your communication bestie. I help leaders and organizations communicate with clarity and competence. However, today I am just going to be your bestie and we're going to have a chat, okay? Because we are currently in a state where men are not new to throwing tantrums, but now it's worse and we want to understand what's going on. You remember a couple of months ago I gave you misogyny versus misogynoir, and I also was able to talk about the male loneliness epidemic, which doesn't exist. However, now we have reached a point where men are so angry, like insanely angry. I want to know what is making men angry. Truly, what is causing you guys this much anger? What's happening? Have you tried smiling a little bit more? Because that always works for me. You know, I just smile and then it just works. So maybe try that. Today we're going to unpack this male anger, but from the lens of understanding this whole theme of not all men, because it has become a social media phenomenon where when someone comes online and decides to share facts and research backed data regarding men's violence towards women, there's always someone, usually a man, in the comments will say, well, not all men. And it's like, okay, Sherlock, we know that. However, it's quite a number of you who are causing problems for the rest of us. So today, that's what I'm going to be talking about. Not all men, but we will focus on the ones that are causing problems. Let's get into it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 significant points in understanding why in the year of our Lord 2026, men continuing to elicit violence towards women. We as women constantly have these conversations amongst ourselves on how we can improve and be better stewards of society. And I don't know if men do the same thing, where you are talking about different ways and you being an addition to people's lives and not being a nuisance. You know, for us women, it comes naturally to want to serve and do better and become better. We are constantly self-reflecting and working on ourselves. I'm speaking of my friend group here, so I wouldn't know about other women out there, but I fairly notice women are more apt to wanting to make things better. But for some reason, men are just destroying and are throwing tantrums, and now it's reached the point where they're eliciting violence on us women. You know, what is causing this? So how did we get here? I'm going to touch on the concept of boys will be boys, about, you know, the manosphere. I did dabble a little bit on this in my previous videos, which I will link below. And then I'm going to dive deeply into male violence. And this is where we're going to talk about a lot of serious things, because just recently there's been a lot of violence towards women from their spouses or a man in their life. And I want to talk about it because we must bear witness to these atrocities so that we can not only be aware of what's happening, but so that we can see if we can do something about it. Section 1, boys will be boys. Now, this is an old age harmful idiom that has been typically used time and time again, meaning rough and sometimes mischievous behaviors displayed in boys or men is implying that their nature is unchangeable, which is harmful. And what happens when we start with this boys will be boys? It means we're not going to allow them to be accountable for their actions. And we're also saying that whatever they're doing is not wrong. And that's where the harm begins. Now we have become a society where we let boys get away with a lot of things. What I'm saying is, while peer pressure is a significant factor in some teens having to be engaging in risk-taking behavior, we should also understand that not all teens are going to participate in that. They're going to resist because of their strong personal values and the supportive family structure that they come from. So there are options for adolescent boys to not always go down the risk-taking behavior route. We're going to go to section 2, where we're going to talk about the Murky Manosphere. We all know that the manosphere is a seeping hot, sunken place of ideologies that are quite harmful to women. Let's start from the beginning. I did discuss this a lot in my male loneliness epidemic video and my misogyny versus misogynoir video. You are going to find them linked. These manosphere places is where I think is kind of the cesspool for all of this ridiculousness, right? Doing research, which is interesting because I've done so much research on the manosphere. You would think I would get like a, punching card at this point with all of the levels of crazy that I've read about. For those who still do not know what that is or what I'm talking about, the manosphere is a representation of a complex network of online communities that continue to promote male supremacy and anti-feminist ideologies. I know, crazy. And this phenomenon has gained traction over the years, particularly amongst young men, leading to the propagation of misogynistic beliefs and behaviors. Most of the adolescent boys who are prone to risk-taking behaviors, 9 out of 10 times, they have found comfort and community within the manosphere, and that is now informing how they think the world is and how they have a place in this world, but at the expense of harming women, which is insane. So some of the key aspects of the manosphere's influence and characteristics are: 1, ideological foundation; 2nd one, impact on mental health; 3rd is societal and political ramifications. Now, these are no-brainers, obviously, because we have noticed that in every single manosphere, those are like the 3 main things that are at the center of it. Definitely impacts male mental health, and also it has a lot of societal and political ramifications, because all this red pill content, they always want to bring politics into it, and then it sort of justifies their reasoning and how they should treat women and how they think women are the ones who are instilling and causing these problems in their lives. I say no, that is not the case, young man. You are in a cesspool of everybody agreeing with you and everybody telling you, yes, women, your sisters, your mother are all to blame for your problems, when it's you not taking the time to be accountable for your actions and how they're contributing to you being quite miserable and shouting at every woman you see. A little harsh, I know, but that is what it is. And it's time to grow up, boys. It's time to grow up. Now let's go into a video from MsAisha on TikTok, who is talking about the manosphere. And the reason why it has come up, or why I'm even talking about it again, because last summer we were having this conversation regarding the adolescent, wonderful, brilliant show. Now we have a new documentary on the manosphere by Louis Theroux, and that is the one MsAisha is referencing in her video. Let's learn something. Roll the clip.
It seems like every spring we need to have the conversation about misogynistic men and why therapy is not appropriate for them. Last spring, Netflix dropped Adolescence, and we had a really robust conversation on multiple platforms about why sending these boys and men to therapy is ineffective and it's not going to do anything about their misogynistic attitudes, because misogyny, say it with me, is a sociological issue. It is not a psychological issue. And this spring, a couple weeks ago, Netflix dropped The Manosphere, which is going to open up that conversation again. As a therapist, I want to let you in on something that developmentally we have known about boys and men for decades, but no one talks about. Boys and men require an attachment figure. In order for boys and men to be able to emotionally regulate and manage their behavior, they have to pedestalize or have a hierarchical person that they look up to, that they're attached to, that they can emulate. That is a requirement for them to develop healthily, emotionally. Little girls don't need that. Little girls are able to emotionally regulate, be self-directed, manage our behavior, play cooperatively and collaboratively with other children without a lot of supervision. Little boys are not able to do that. In order for boys and men, let me say it again, to develop emotionally, they have to have an attachment to an authority figure. Because they lack that, they are vulnerable to podcasters who exploit that and get them to sign up for expensive monthly subscriptions, sell them dreams about becoming millionaires on the stock market, and these boys and men eat it up. And they eat it up because they have put these podcasters in the position as an authority figure, and they emotionally regulate through these authority figures. So all that anger, all that rage, they actually are able to look at these authority figures and feel validated and feel seen. That is necessary for boys and men. That is why they're vulnerable, and that's what we need to talk about more.
I absolutely loved everything she shared. And as a therapist, she definitely knows more and understands the psychological impacts of this manosphere global phenomenon that we're all having to deal with. So in a UK survey that was done in 2024, results showed that misogyny predicts violent extremist intentions and willingness to engage in interpersonal violence and increase support for violence against women. Insane. And this violence is through revenge planning and hypermasculinity, particularly among men who experience a sense of violated entitlement and greater threats to the in-group. This is what I don't understand about men. If there are men out there watching this video, please do share your 2 cents in the comments. Why do men who are violent towards women or who are planning revenge, violated entitlement towards women, why do you think you're entitled to do that? Because I don't understand how you can plan and have this whole thing where you're going to hurt another individual just because things didn't go your way. An example of why I'm asking this question is there was this man a couple of months ago who was thinking that his wife, or suspecting that she was cheating, instead of, saying, hey, honey, let's talk. I really think you're cheating. Whatever situation it is, right? Have a conversation like a grown up. No, he planned this whole trip saying that, they need to get away and kind of just reconnect. And then on that trip, he was planning to chuck her off a cliff. And he tried and failed. Thank goodness she's okay. But she didn't come out there unscathed. She did experience some physical scarring and stuff because he wanted to hit her with a rock. In that instance, my guy, you could have just divorced her, okay? Walk away. Why do men think they have to instill violence? And I don't understand that. We're going to watch a video from that hippie looking chick on TikTok talking about the red pill to military pipeline. That is something interesting. Roll the clip.
What's a conspiracy theory that you 1,000% believe?
The reason why red pill content targeted at men has such a heavy emphasis on being a gym bro and working out is because these men are being groomed for a future of military service. And the reason this content has such a heavy emphasis on hating women and blaming them for all of their problems is because the best way to escape the red pill pipeline is to get laid and have female validation. Keeping these men angry at women is going to prevent them from leaving that kind of content. A man who is confident and secure in himself and has meaningful relationships with both women and men and has something to live for is far less likely to be willing to sacrifice his life for another meaningless war. But a man who's angry and frustrated and not getting laid and has to prove his masculinity and prefers the company of men because he doesn't trust women and is working out all the time? Perfect soldier.
So in section 1, we talked about boys will be boys and how it is a harmful old age idiom, how adolescent boys are continuously prone to risk-taking behavior and some of the factors of why. And then we discussed manosphere in section 2 and how it continuously is a representation of a network where online communities are promoting male supremacy and anti-feminist ideologies that leads men to thinking that they're entitled to elicit violence towards women. Now in section 3, we're going to talk about the real meat of this video, and that is male violence. What is some of the things that drive male violence against women, especially in intimate partner relationships? The first one is more jarring, which is the case that happened in Louisiana, the gentleman who shot his children. Before we get there, we're going to start with what drives men to assault women. From the research I saw online, the first one is childhood conditioning, second is economic stress, third is substance abuse, and fourth is societal norms and patriarchy. I think the one that we're currently dealing with more is societal norms and patriarchy, and that is where we're seeing a lot of the reasoning behind all of these cases where women are being constantly harmed. And it pisses me off, to be quite honest. I'm sick and tired of every time hearing a woman has been killed by someone who was meant to be their protector, their supporter, the person that is supposed to love them and not be violent. Really don't understand what that behavior is. It's quite sickening and disgusting. But we're going to start with societal norms and patriarchy. And this is coming from the CNN article everybody has seen now. It exposes the global online rape academy. This is a site that for some reason had 62 million hits in February alone, where men were discussing the many ways that you can get away with assaulting a woman. And most of the chats in that online academy was in tandem with how you can assault a spouse or someone you're with already. Like, what is that? That is ridiculous. Like, instead of creating group chats where you are solving global warming, you are having chats with random dudes from other places out there in the ether about how you can assault women and get away with it. Like, how stupid do you have to be to want to do that? What is failing men that they feel like they can do that and that's okay? Insane. We're gonna have Sunny Day Jones, whom I love, who is gonna give us one-on-one on what's up with this rape academy. Roll the clip.
Was it 62 million men or 62 million site views? And actually it was only 1,000 men in a couple of Telegram chats. You're not gonna do shit no matter what the number is, and that's why the number doesn't matter. Hey cool kids, I really had to take some time to get myself together about this topic after I saw the article about the rape academy. And that was as close to calm as I was gonna get, so I'm just gonna have to drop the code switch and let it ride. I've seen quite a few lovely posts, some of them from men, explaining why focusing on the actual number isn't the best thing to do right now. Why it lacks empathy, why it's a deflection tactic. But the real of it is that the kind of man who would say, well, actually, let's get the number right first, that's the type of man that's not gonna do shit no matter what the number is, and that's why the number doesn't matter. We have to get the facts right. For what? So you can continue to be quiet about sexual assault? So you can continue to think that in a story about wives being raped in their sleep, that the biggest victim is the good guys who are going to be labeled as bad? You don't need facts to move dumb like that. You don't need facts because you ain't gonna do nothing with them. Now that you have the right number for a few days, what other information do you have? Do you have this number by chance? What have you done to advocate for an end to sexual assault, harassment, and abuse that you were not doing before you had the correct number in that article? Since you're so good and you're so concerned about good men being labeled and generalized, if a woman in your life came to you and said something happened to her, would you know what to do next? Would you know what to say? Would you know what not to say? If she said, I don't want to go to the police, but I think I need some counseling, would you know where to drive her? Would you go with her? Because I would know. In my town, I would know where to drive her. If your homeboy said his girl did the leg lock and he told her to get up and she wouldn't get up. If he said he was 15 and he kind of lost his virginity to his girlfriend and she was 21. He not just making conversation, he telling you because he trusts you when he needs somebody to say something. What are you going to say? Yeah, so to recap, the kind of person who thinks that the number is the most important thing to figure out first, that's the kind of person who's not going to do shit whether the number is 62 million, 62,000, 1,000, or 1. You're going to sit back and watch as the supervillains continue to climb to the top, and you are going to get on your hands and knees and let them step on your back to get there.
What I love most about Sunny Day Jones is how real she is. She's talking about actual harm that is happening and what are the types of questions that men should be asking themselves. And so as we move on to factors that drive male violence against women in intimate partner relationships are actually similar to the same traits that drive men to assault women. The first one is childhood conditioning and learned behavior. Remember what I said in section 1 about what children see and then they want to do and they model that behavior? The second one is economic stress and alcohol consumption. And then the third one, the number one factor where it drives male violence against or towards intimate partner relationships is misogyny and hypermasculinity. This is where it is, boys. This is your Achilles heel. Misogyny, a hatred of women, and hypermasculinity, the shelved idea of what a man is. Let's talk about this violence. All I have is what has happened recently because I can go on until I'm blue in the face with the amount of cases I've read upon cases on all the times that women have suffered to the point of their death because a man has decided he could. The most tragic one currently is this gentleman in Louisiana who shot these kids. I'm gonna let this wonderful creator talk about it, give us a synopsis of what happened in case you didn't know. It's sickening. Roll the clip.
A man went to 4 different locations where he proceeded to shoot 10 people, 8 of them being children, ranging ages 1 to 14 in Louisiana. The police are saying that this is a result of what they're calling a domestic disturbance, and the suspect, the alleged gunman, is dead after a car chase with police. And remember, these are preliminary reports. The children age from ages 1 years old, so a literal baby, to ages 14. And this means that this guy, this person, went to these 4 locations specifically seeking out these children to hurt them. And for the next couple of days, we're going to be talking about motives, what his motive was. Was he going through a divorce? Was he going through this? There's no motive for murdering people because you're angry. My auntie used to say with these mass shooters, and that don't mean it's the right thing. She used to say, don't hurt people, just hurt your damn self. But to take the lives of 8 children and to shoot 10 people total across all of these different locations, there's no motive. There's no excuse. He was an Army National Guard veteran who shot 8 children as they ran away, along with his wife and the mother of one of his children. Here's what you need to know about the tragic shooting that happened in Shreveport. Let's get into it. So 34-year-old Shamar Elkins killed 8 children across 3 different homes in Louisiana. 7 of the children were his own kids. The victims ranged in age from just 1 to 12 years old, and a 13-year-old boy survived by fleeing and jumping from a roof, breaking several bones in the process. 2 women were also shot. Elkins' wife, who remains in critical condition, and another woman, the mother of the 8th child, who has life-threatening injuries. The massacre began a little after 6 a.m. in the Cedar Grove community, and police say Elkins first shot his wife and then went to 2 other homes on West 79th Street and one on Harrison Street where he killed the children. Some children tried to escape through the back door, and neighbor security cameras captured Elkins fleeing toward a tire shop after the attack. Elkins was a 7-year veteran of the Louisiana Army National Guard until August 2020 and was never deployed. He had been arrested in 2019 on a firearms case. After the shootings, he carjacked a vehicle and led police on a chase to the next parish. This is the deadliest mass shooting in the U.S. since January 2024.
It's extremely sad, to be quite honest. My thoughts and prayers are with those families. Let's move on to other forms of violence that men elicit towards women. It seems like men do not understand what consent is. I don't know if any of you have seen the Russell Brand video where he is, oh my gosh, he's talking about how when he was 30, he had a consensual relationship with a 16-year-old. I'll let him speak for himself. Roll the clip.
In Europe and in the United Kingdom where I'm from, the age of consent is 16, and I did sleep with a 16-year-old when I was 30. But when I was 30, I was a very different person. I was a lot younger, and I was an immature 30-year-old. Consensual sex, actually, with a variety of people, when there is a strong power differential, as there is when you're a famous man that has the ability to attract women that I had at that time, I think involves exploitation. I think it is exploitative. I recognize that my sexual conduct in the past was selfish and I did not apply enough consideration, barely any, I suppose, really, to how that sex was affecting other people.
Yes, it's disgusting what he says. And you know what sickens me even more is him saying I was an immature 30-year-old. So, and also where I come from, this is like, the age of consent. And because I was like a man who's like rich and, women desired me, then it was okay for me to like, do that. But also I understand that there's a power dynamic. And even if there is a power dynamic, I was an immature 30-year-old. And so it was okay for me to have this relationship with a 16-year-old. Are you mad? Are you actually okay in the head? Like straight to jail. What is this? I can't. Oh my goodness. It's insane. Like, what is that? But I'm going to let Kelechi handle this because she handled it perfectly. Roll the clip.
Hey, gorgeous. So the reason that the age of consent is set to 16 is so 16, 17-year-olds, them lot there can sleep with each other. So they can sleep with each other. Not so grey back, dry foot, unwashed leg adults can sleep with the 16-year-olds. Do you understand? Because I'm getting worried. I'm getting worried when the line of reasoning as it pertains to Russell Brand and men of his ilk is that, oh, well, it was the age of consent. Not for you! Not for you! Right? The whole reason that we have these laws in place is because historically men kept marrying children. And I'm talking about like 9-year-olds. You can look it up, 9-year-olds, fully grown men. Even when we look at our stars, how old was Elvis Presley's wife when he met her? Fuck, how old was Diana when Charles met her? Right? It's been about for a while, cool. But for Russell Brand to go on the Megyn Kelly show, of course he'd go on that kind of show, right? Because the demographic that likely watched that type of show voted for Trump, even after hearing him say that when you're famous or when you've got money, you can get away with anything. You can grab them by the poussoir, and get away with it. And he got voted in, all of the times. So he knows that demographic is going to in some way support him. And because of the values that these sorts of women have, they tend to believe that, the man leads the home. They're more forgiving whilst also infantilizing said man, right? He's the leader of the household, but he's also incapable of doing the most basic things. And so when Russell Brand now said, I was an immature 30-year-old, you motherfucker, if you were an immature 30-year-old, what the hell do you think a 16-year-old girl was? An immature 30-year-old, so we shouldn't consider you to be an adult, even though you were picking her up from outside of her school and coaching her on what to say to her parents. So you knew what you were doing was wrong. Clearly, an immature 30-year-old. And why it hurts me so much is because black children have been killed, right? Because and violated because the system sees them as adults. Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, spoken about as if they were adults when they were children, literal children. Child Q in the UK, strip searched when she was meant to be doing her exams. They took her out, made her, I don't even want to go into the graphic details, but even made her take out her period pad, her sanitary pad, because they wanted to check that she didn't have weed on her. In the UK, black children are 8 times more likely in comparison to other children, specifically white children, to be strip searched. But you've got Russell Brand talking about, I was an immature 30-year-old.
I know we say therapy a lot. Some of these guys are not going to therapy, okay? I don't know what they're going to need to help them to act right, but maybe therapy is not going to work for them. We need something else more strong that's going to pull you back to sanity and not have you creating all these problems. I'm done here. This was a quick, swift video. I am sick and tired of the atrocities. I'm quite frankly all for people being free to do and say whatever they want. But if it's harming other people, especially physically when it comes to male violence, then I'm sorry, but your time is up. Okay, we're done with that. Either get it together and stop blaming everyone for your issues and actually figure out what's going on and what's wrong with you and what has happened to your life that has led you to this place. Or I don't know, but it's ridiculous the amount of women we're losing due to male violence. It has to stop. It truly has to stop. And I'm going to leave this video with you from David Larbi, who is giving us a wonderful, wonderful reminder and message titled Not All Men.
Not all men. We already knew. It's built into all that we already do. When we hear that another woman has lost trust, we cannot make their righteous anger about us. If I'm treated with skepticism, suspicion, or fear, the blame lies with all those refusing to hear, refusing to feel shame, refusing to change, until they've hurt women again and again. That includes disregard, distancing, denial. It all upholds the structure that permits the vile. To hear someone's story and cry, not all men, may not make us abusers, but it serves only them. Those are the cries that they need to exist, the dismissal they hope for, that they operate amidst. It emboldens them to act behind all the noise, while we shout blunt statements all missing the point. If not all men, not my friends, not you, not me, let us prove it by listening with accountability. The easiest way to show that it's not you is to listen and learn when we are told the truth.
Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you guys in the next one. Please be kind to one another. Bye.